WISC TV now presents For the Record.
What's your vision for how Madison grows? We'll talk to folks very interested in your answer next on For the Record. Thanks for joining us. I'm Neil Heinen. An impressive group of Madison and Dane County business, government, and nonprofit leaders have been working for some time now on a long-term regional planning effort called A Greater Madison Vision. Next week, a 2-month window opens during which an online survey will gather public input on what that plan should look like. And thus, your input is critical. Most of you have been aware of planning efforts before, and there have been many, but we think you'll agree this one feels a little different, a little more strategic and visionary. Joining me to tell you more about the survey and the planning effort are Capital Area Regional Planning Commission Deputy Director Steve Steinhoff, a Greater Madison Vision co-chair and executive director of the Rainbow Project, Sharyl Kato, and CARPC executive chair and a Greater Madison Vision co-chair, Larry Palm. And thank you all very much.
Thank you.
So
Thanks,
just to
Neil.
get the shorthand over with, Capital Area Regional Planning Commission will henceforth be called CARPC.
Thank you, yeah.
Just to save some time. So Steve, just give us a little bit of background here about how this planning effort started and some of the steps that kind of led up to this survey.
Sure. The region really has not had a long-term vision and plan for how it grows that's been a guiding force for decades. The last attempt was actually in 1997. So, and since then, there's been a couple updates to the Dane County Land Use and Transportation Plan, or you may remember it was a Vision 2020 process. Right. But we've really fallen behind on that. Regions around the country have moved forward with new approaches and new ways to galvanize leadership and the population around a vision for growth that's really had an impact. And
cities and villages have their own, municipal plans. Correct. But this is a much bigger plan. Right?
Yeah, because we face regional challenges. Certainly the flooding that we're experiencing now is just one example of a regional challenge. Transportation or others that really require people to come together and work together on a shared strategy and goal to be successful. So that's why we're doing this. And we started a few years ago by pulling in the CEO of Envision Utah, a nationally recognized effort in the Salt Lake City area. And he came and talked about how these types of efforts can work. And from that, we used to pull together a steering committee, which has started at 36 and now is at 46 leaders from, as you mentioned in your opening, from the government, business, and nonprofit sectors.
I wish we could read all 40 names because it really is a remarkable group. It's very inclusive. I feel like it's one of the more diverse groups of its kind that I've seen in a long time. So maybe just by way of illustration, why both of you, Sharyl and Larry, got involved?
Well, I was motivated really because I wanted to ensure that the input was inclusive, that there are many times for future planning, many populations that are not included. And so to really make sure, since we as nonprofits are really in the present moment and very mindful of all the challenges and strengths, it's hard to stop the world and say, let's look ahead. But I had wished others had done that before in order to help us in these challenges. And we also know those strengths, and we want to make sure their voices directly are heard because they are really struggling. And we really want to make sure that the vital, vibrant, modern transportation system joins our communities, joins the employment of the people who are looking for employment, quality child care, health care, education, housing. Those are all such important issues for everyone. And there is skepticism sometimes with some of those that you were alluding to, that where is the concrete walk the walk of us? You ask us, but are we really seeing those changes?
Yeah, Sharyl, I think it's so important that your voice is a part of this, because I think a lot of people, when they think about regional planning, wouldn't think about children and families, wouldn't think about the issues that the Rainbow Project deals with all the time, kids growing up in trauma, and yet regional planning has a huge influence on those.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that was my fault. When Steve and I were trying to create that steering committee, we didn't want the people that have always done this. I viewed Sharyl as an integral part of what the future, this is planning about the future and what the community needs. And I viewed those types of individuals who have connections to the communities in ways that planners just never do, and I wanted to invite those to join in, and as Sharyl says, you know, engage a different group of population, and that's really been one of the things that, as you said, is different about this process. It's a truly determined effort to engage everyone in the region, whether you work here, live here, or just go to school here, and also have at the table people that represent or engage in those communities. Not just say we're going to give feedback to this cabal of white men.
Right.
We really wanted people, and it's been a challenge, right? Because in any situation where the future is being discussed, there's a lot of people who want to be at the table, and we had to make sure that we were only inviting the people that truly can make a difference and engage in this process, and that could, when we get these results, make a conscientious choice to empower the community to take that vision and move forward with it.
I think the opportunity also is there for not just those concrete things that we're talking about in transportation and connections and housing, but it's also an opportunity to look creatively, freshly about how do we fund education? How do we fund some of those support services that are fundamental to mental health and physical health? Those are some of the creative things that I think contribute to leadership and vision that I think needs to be so inclusive.
Now, I want to spend more time coming up talking about that, but just using that example, how will that show up in the survey? How will people be able to express an opinion on funding education, for example?
Well, I do think that's one reason why we had the input. We have a leadership coalition of directors of all the nonprofit human service systems, from aging to housing, developmental disabilities, and so their voices are representing them, but we also need to talk directly to each of them.
Gotcha. Yep.
In order to make sure we know what are those struggles that they have in providing the services we know work. But there are those barriers.
So the survey itself is going to be very unique. It's not, they're not, so there's literally no way to do this in paper. This is a new frontier of the online experience where you're going to be clicking and dragging and prioritizing, and basically...
That's going to bring people back after the commercial. Hold that thought, and when we come back, I'm going to have you finish talking about the survey, okay? We'll do that right after this.
For the Record, sponsored by MG&E, your community energy company.
Hey Madison, it's the final week of A1 Furniture's grand opening. Get grand opening savings up to $1,000 in A1 instant rebates, plus up to 3 years no interest financing. $1,000 two-piece sofa and love seat only $695. $800 power recliner only $497. $2,000 reclining three-piece sofa, love seat and recliner only $1347. Grand opening savings store-wide at all 3 locations. A1 Furniture and Mattress, always first in price, service, and satisfaction.
At Ho Chunk Gaming Madison, big wins happen every day. Big wins happen every day. Ho Chunk Gaming Madison.
Much calmer in the News 3 weather office lately. Hattie has comfortable sunny weather continuing Monday.
And as some Sauk County students finally go back to school, damage assessments begin in places like Laval. We will share what's next for the high water starting at 4:30.
I'm Charlotte DeLeste. Join me at the Edgewater Hotel for this year's Gio's Garden Gala, a night of fine cuisine, music, and inspiring stories to benefit area special needs families. For tickets and details, visit giosgarden.org.
IRS agent is waiting for your call back.
When you've been scammed, when a business won't listen, when you get obstacles instead of solutions. Don't give up. Call for action.
I'm News 3's Leah Lynchide. Our Call for Action investigators are here for you, exposing scams, mediating consumer disputes, and getting results. Contact us by phone or on channel3000.com.
News 3's Call for Action, only on WISC TV3.
We've got your back.
On Wednesday, the next phase of a Greater Madison Vision goes live, a 2-month survey online that will seek your input on a long-term planning process for Dane County. My guest, Steve Steinhoff, from CARPC, the Greater Madison Regional Planning Commission. Sharyl Kato, who's a co-chair of a Greater Madison Vision and the executive director of the Rainbow Project at Madison. Alder Larry Palm, who is also a co-chair of a Greater Madison Vision. You all have too many titles. It takes too long to do this. Back to the survey, Larry. Sure. You were talking about what that's going to look like.
So the survey is fundamentally different by design to engage more people into this process. We didn't want to have a bubble survey that people might have completed in the past that asked 1,000 questions.
Where you fill in the little circles.
You fill in the little circles. You answer 1,000 questions, and you sort of wonder where this goes, right? So the survey is set up with 4 different future scenarios. So these are things that are interesting and different, and they rely upon what we expect future changes to the community could look like. And then from there, the different subgroups of those you prioritize. So we take into account the future of technology and automation, the potential that the federal and state government could reduce how much funding they provide communities, and therefore the communities then have to be more self-sufficient. We take into account some environmental impacts, certainly things like the flooding that's recently happened are good signs of what the future might hold for us. And we want people to prioritize which one of those things they think are most important and most potential to happen.
I was trying to get to that in my open, Larry. I found it really engaging. I mean, unlike, as you say, unlike previous surveys that were slightly more academic, perhaps, in their approach, this one really stimulates your thinking, I think.
Right. And we try and make it accessible. So a lot of surveys offer a lot of details and maps, and we want the concepts to be broader and more clear for people. So that when we on your own, your one response gives you your perspective, but with 10,000, 20,000, everyone in Dane County's responses collected, we can really get a picture of what rises as priorities for the region, and then we can have those conversations about why those things rise to the top, what we can do about it, what impacts we can have, and how we can form coalitions to support making changes that are meaningful to participants. We'll obviously, this being all a digital survey, we'll have to have special efforts to connect to communities that don't have access to technology. It is fully on your phones. You can fully complete it. We think a large part of the population will complete it just on their phones in 10 minutes or less. We made a lot of efforts to make sure that that is a key way of people engaging with the Greater Madison Vision, but we're also connecting with schools, senior centers, and libraries to make sure that they have the capacity to assist people to complete those surveys.
Online. But they'll be able to get access to online at these various places. And just, contextually, Steve, I mean, I think it's really important that each individual feels like their perspective is respected in this. But there's kind of a broader context too, which is we have to plan for a pretty significant growth in this community.
That's right. In the next 25 years or so, they're projected to be at least 150,000 more people, and that's sort of an abstract number. It's hard to wrap your brain around, so we like to say it's about 2 Camp Randall stadiums full of people, so you can imagine Camp Randall and all the people in it and double that. That's what we're looking at. It's changing population as well, doubling of the aging population, like me, and growing much more diverse. So those bring opportunities as well as challenges to make sure everybody's able to succeed.
So it would be helpful if people think about it. This is what I would like for my family. This is what I would like for my circumstances. But also to think, this is what I would like to see with an additional 150,000 people. This is the kind of greater Madison region that I would want to live in for my neighbors and my coworkers.
That's right. Because we looked at, as part of this process, rather than just looking at trends and following the line out 20 years and saying, well, this is going to be our future. We know we live in a time of much more disruptive change, climate change, driverless cars, lots of other forces that affect us. So we examine and involve people in conversations about how will these big forces affect us, and how can we better prepare for them. So the survey is really revolving around exploring those forces of change and what are the actions that communities can take to better prepare and respond to them.
2 months does not seem like a big window of time. I mean, obviously you thought through how much time you wanted to give people to do this, but I expect this is going to be as high profile as you can make it over the next 2 months to get people.
It's a 10-minute survey.
Do you have any idea how many people you
well, my goals are much more lofty. I mean, I really want everyone in the region who lives here, works here, goes to school here to be taking the survey. That's why it's so engaging, is that people don't have an excuse to say, you know, I don't have that time to do it, I'll do it later, and then November 12th comes along and you're shut out of being part of that engagement. It's 10 minutes or less. It's self-explanatory, it's engaging, you can do it on your phone. We think that that has the potential for connecting with everybody in the region, and that no one has an excuse to not participate. And the more information we get, the better choices we can get, the more we can do the right things and create a vision for the region that is so compelling that everyone believes that to be true.
Well, when we come back, I would like to get your hopes and dreams for the results of this, but also some concrete, thoughts on what will be done with this information. And we'll do this when we come back right after that.
Congratulations to Marcia Michelon and Jacob Mills, the ringleaders of Wild Rumpus Circus and Mazomania.
That's all we want people to try to do here at camp, is just try. You might surprise yourself.
I couldn't imagine doing anything else, for one thing. I mean, we feel just so lucky that we get to work with kids in this way.
If you know a teacher who deserves to be recognized as a top-notch teacher, send us a letter, an email, or nominate a teacher at channel3000.com.
Sponsored by Lazy Boy Furniture Galleries and by Concordia University.
Spectrum is redefining everything you thought you knew about internet, TV, and voice services to bring you the ultimate triple play. Introducing a true revolution in internet speed with game-changing new starting speeds of 200 megabits. That's double our previous speed and double the bandwidth for the fastest surfing, streaming, gaming, and more. Get Spectrum Internet starting at 200 megabits for $29.99 a month with no data caps and a free modem. Call 844-419-2999. Then catch all your favorites in stunning HD, plus thousands of titles free on demand with Spectrum TV for $29.99 a month. And get Spectrum Voice with unlimited calling to the U.S., Mexico, and more for $29.99 a month. Call 844-419-2999. Switch to Spectrum Internet TV and Voice for $29.99 a month each with no contracts. Call 844-419-2999.
On the next Live at 4, Dr. Zorba Pastor joins us. He'll be taking your medical questions live. And film critic Will Loper will be along as well. He'll tell us what he thinks of the new horror movie, The Nun.
Get your running shoes on and join the Henry Vilas Zoo for the annual Zoo Run Run and Kids Roo Run Run. It's September 30th, and we're bringing back the popular predator versus prey options. Go to vilaszoo.org for all the details and registration.
I am back with Steve Steinhoff, Sharyl, Kato, and Larry Palm, all members of a Greater Madison Vision, the long-term planning effort that this week kicks off a public survey online that you are invited, encouraged to take and to participate in. So Sharyl, from your perspective, both as a member of the Planning Commission, but also from the planning team, but also from the Rainbow Project, what are you looking for in terms of results here and in terms of a blueprint for the future?
The results are going to be how we engage and what the input is and how inclusive that is in terms of not only being inclusive for the engagement, but implementation. We really have to show that we are listening, and I've participated in many things community-wide, and some of those are shelved plans, and others are, oh, they actually listened, and I'm seeing exactly what the input was, and I felt heard. That, I think, is important in order for success to occur, that is consistent throughout.
What's your sense, Larry, of government, of the city council, of the county board, of the League of Municipalities in the region to be receptive to this?
So I mean, most governments work on cycles, so that's going to be our challenge. We for the city of Madison, they just did the Imagine Madison project, and so we're probably a little on the slow slide in the city, but for a lot of communities, they're going to need our support to do their own comprehensive plans or their own visioning processes, and now we have a really strong well of information to provide them so that they can move not only in conjunction with their own community thinks, but what the greater community thinks. So
can you incorporate the Imagine Madison results into what you're doing?
Well, we've certainly been part of having this happen at the same time. They've worked strongly together, and so during the planning process, these scenarios have come out through their processes, and we've used their data to demonstrate some of what we're doing today in the survey. So it's a partnership. Unfortunately, we just weren't able to give them the visioning first and then move forward. But to say that, so that government moves slowly, but nonprofits move faster, businesses move a lot faster. Developers are going to be paying attention here to say where communities want to grow and where do they want to, what type of housing do people want, businesses want. And so that type of information is going to be very critical to moving forward with the larger communities. And so I think we can make some changes with 150,000 people coming forward. We've got to make decisions that support that expanding community and the community that we have now. So I think it is essential that we outreach once we come up with our vision, and we'll come back and talk about when the vision is unveiled.
Yes, we will.
And then we'll work on implementing it in collaboration with those communities, nonprofits, businesses, individuals. That's going to be key. I mean, this region, successful regions plan together. So, the research triangle, as people talk about that, well, they didn't just stumble upon that. Multiple cities didn't work together just because. They worked together because they recognized that by working together, they can move further, faster, and farther than if they were working on their own.
That's a good example, Larry. Steve, this is probably a two-part question, but historically, there's been some resistance to regional planning. I mean, we've seen it over 20, 25 years. That there's been some momentum, and then there's turf battles and things that have gotten in the way. So that's one hurdle. We have a new population now, and it's much more diverse. In a lot of ways, it's a lot younger. This whole resistance could even be a little generational. Are we past that resistance, and how are you engaging the new, young, very diverse population of Dane County?
Sure. I think that that resistance is lessening. When we went around and talked to people to recruit for the steering committee, and when we generally go out and talk to people about this effort, there does seem to be a real hunger for people to let's work together and make it work. Let's stop fighting about little turf battles here or there, or whether a company should be in one location or another. So I do feel that. I felt that when we were going around and talking to people.
I think so. The different communities, whether it's Sun Prairie, some of the other ones answer.
Less of the not in my backyard kind of density and transportation things.
And I don't know if it's just we reached a certain critical mass of people, or we haven't done this in so long that people have a hunger for it. Yeah. But diverse and widespread participation in the survey is important, because when we roll out the implementation and we talk to leaders, and we want to be able to say, well, your constituency, gave their input and guidance, and this is what they really want to see.
Including young people, I'm thinking of, too. Yeah.
And that's why we have this youth incentive program where we're offering cash incentive prizes to youth groups and schools who sign up, who will generate the most completed surveys.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah,
that's kind of cool.
We have groups like Boys and Girls Club and the Goodman Center, as well as the Middleton Youth Center, and Wanakee High School is going to ask all their students to take the survey, as well as is a number of other schools in the region.
Sharyl, just in closing, you will say, hey, this didn't achieve what we wanted it to achieve if it didn't. But I also don't think you would have gotten involved in this if you weren't optimistic about it.
Well, I think that's true, and the focus motivation is to make sure that some of the motivation and goals that I had and vision I had for this come to fruition as best I can.
Yeah. We'll do this again, all right? When this is all over, what do you think? When will the report be done?
We're hoping early 2019. Certainly, the results of the visioning process, of the survey, will be fairly clear since it's self-tabulating now, right? We'll know what ranks first, and so those things we'll get an immediate conversation with the steering committee and have them start getting into that. And then the harder work is, now that we've identified these priorities, how do we move forward on them?
All right. For the next show, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
We're going to wrap up For the Record right after this.
This is an exciting time in the energy industry.
The world is changing, and we want to work toward common goals.
Toward a cleaner energy future, driven by innovation, powered by working together.
By working with customers, we provide customers what they want.
MG&E is your community energy company for the future, powering our community, sharing your values, partnering to meet your needs. Visit energy2030together.com to create a more sustainable future together.
A teacher watched hardcore pornography in his classroom, showed obscene images to female co-workers, commented about the chest sizes of middle school girls, suggested one struggling student should brush up on her sex skills because it's the only thing she'd ever be good at, then intimidated the female teacher who complained. Tony Evers should have revoked the teacher's license, but he didn't. And the teacher is still in the classroom with young girls.
This is the right size.
So is this.
And these.
Every winter coat that you donate to Coats for Kids will help someone in our community stay warm.
Because people in need come in all ages and sizes.
So take your coats and accessories to any Clinky cleaners.
They'll be cleaned for free.
And the Community Action Coalition will make sure they reach a child or adult
who's just the right size. Catch daily info on News 3 this morning, News 3 at 6,
and Magic 98.
And donate to Coats for Kids.
Throughout a day, so much is out of our control. Alarms fail. Babies fuss. Ew. What did Eddie roll in? The News 3 team uses First Alert technology to put you back in control. How to prepare.
You're going to want an umbrella in the morning.
What to wear.
Grab a jacket on your way out.
What to expect.
The belt line's a mess, so leave a few minutes early.
What's ahead.
The weekend looks fantastic.
News 3 First Alert weather and traffic will put you in control of your day. Or most of it.
Our thanks to Steve and Sharyl and Larry, and to you for joining us. We'll see you next week on For the Record.